So thank you for coming. The game, yeah, I'll tell you more about my game, but the name, yeah, from play to possibility is something that rings a bell. And for Ian, you were in the other session, and for me, the mindsetter or the birth of my COVID baby, the mindsetter was from wanting a different tool for SF training. So this is where it actually started, that I felt like teaching it. I don't know how many of you also teach SF or well have been in SF training, all of you, I guess. I think it's so the principles sound so easy, like the client is the expert. But in my trainings, I would always have people saying, yeah, maybe your clients can do that. My clients, they're too old, too young, too sick, too healthy, they don't want to, or the doctors don't want to, or the parents don't want them to, or whatever. So the mindset, just very quickly about me, you already learned now, or who was early enough that I like wine. I've been an OT since 2000 and worked all my career in mental health care. I've been a solution-focused practitioner now since 2005. I had the luck to still be trained by Insu and Yvonne Dolan and have some of the big names, which was very impressive and yeah, very inspiring. And since a decade now, I give training in SF. I published a book in German on it. And my secret ingredients to, because where I work in the Netherlands, I work at the University Hospital in Amsterdam with young people with the first psychosis. So adolescents between 17 and 27. And there I'm mainly a job coach. So there it's mainly trying to get them into, yeah, help them to get back into their normal life, which normally includes going back to school or to study or to whatever. And to whatever I do professionally, and even as a mom, I think my secret ingredients are always experiential learning. I don't like to be just preaching. I want to do something. And also in therapy and SF. And I like to start with a quote by Isaac Asimov, who said, "The most exciting phrase to hear in science, the one that heralds new discoveries, is not Eureka, but that's funny, because that's funny is the sound of something catching in your brain." And my best hopes for when I tried to develop or started developing the game was to teach people like how to change from to or explain them what solution focus means, because I guess you know as well that there's so many misconceptions that we are with those hippies just looking at the positive and that it's just for light problems, but that we're not problem solving, but that's what solution focus means. And the name Mindsetter also came from the idea I wanted in training. I wanted them to try on the SF glasses, just experiment with them, just to see what does it mean if I'm solution focused. How do I look at my professional work or my clients to get them to co-create and the experiential learning out there and just a very cooperative and creative knowledge acquisition. That is not me teaching. And it sounds so logical, like everyone is an expert of their own life, but what does it actually mean? Or I don't know about your settings, but in mental health care, we do have clients who don't come at their own accord. So how can it be? How can I have a not knowing stance, but still bring in my knowledge in a useful way for the client? So this is what I was trying to do. And I'd first like to, as now I know we have time, to just send you quickly into breakout rooms. Or maybe, I mean, we're a small group. You can also share it here. We could also do it here. So I'd like to see, has anybody of you ever used game elements in training and then or in therapy or in coaching or whatever SF background you have? And what's the effect? What makes it useful? Or on the other hand, why would you like to try it? So the floor is yours. Let's just chat here. Ian?
Sorry, I'm just wondering where to start because yeah, I've probably looked into this too much to be able to come in at it fresh. So I tried to use tried to use games to play quite a lot, solution focused approach, and I ran a workshop on it at the World Conference in 2018, I think, where lots of people kind of came up with lots of really interesting stuff. It ended up in a book chapter, but at the moment, but that said, I use it quite erratically, I think. So my one of the reasons one of the main reasons coming to the conference was to come to this session and the one later because at the moment I'm with a group of people. We're trying to put together a bid to basically develop and pilot a playful solution focused intervention for staff teams to kind of get them to interact and work better together. And so, yeah, I mean, sorry, that doesn't answer the question at all that you asked, Gesa. Sorry.
But if we don't have time to chat further, I would love to be in touch after this. I'd
No,
love to know
that
more.
would be brilliant. Yeah. But
Yeah,
I think the reason for me, the effect that I think it has is that as this wonderful thing is that solution focused therapy does at its best anyway, which is it stops people being scared of failing and stuff.
yes.
You know, the fact that you can disconnect in preferred future questions, that
Mhm.
you know, a big part of doing that properly is being able to disconnect the future from the present. You say what you want, you don't say how you're going to get there.
Mhm.
And it's the same in play. Play's got this whole thing around it where the idea is that, you know, when you play, you don't succeed all the time, you fail. And if you talk about something like computer games, you learn by failing all the
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's that's the thing I think that really frees people up, and it just also makes the experience of therapy like exciting and fun and not a horrible chore.
So I know I will repeat that at some point, but in the 2 years, the mindset has been on the market now. And I mean, there's a few games in this room. Funnily enough, this is the feedback coming back from all kinds of contexts that can be leadership training in the Philippines, or as you'd hear, just an interview from Tara, one of Tara Gretton's students, an 11-year-old boy in the UK, and everyone in between. So that gamification really, really works. I still try to figure out why, but it works. Anyone else? What are you using? Yeah, Petya?
Yes, hi. I wanted to share that I'm using the miracle question and
Mm-hmm.
I make it as a game in
Oh,
leadership training, and it works brilliantly. It makes really people think about the preferred future of a kind of complicated real life situation.
wow. Wow,
So,
I'd also like to hear more. So there need to be a lot of follow-up discussions. How about the
yeah,
rest?
I think we already connected on LinkedIn. So,
Sounds good. Let's do that. Anyone else? Oh, maybe who doesn't use it yet and would like to? No? Well, what are you hoping for today? I could ask, but I could also continue and we'll just find out. Oh, wait. Let's skip to a few. Mhm. So I actually had a little how like I tried to, as I said to Ian before, try to find out why it's working because I see that it is working, that it's very inviting. And I know that there's separate research, of course, on SF and there's research on gamification or game-based elements, but I love the combination. And yeah, games and growth, like what makes it such a meaningful tool is that play is a universal, and I in brackets human language because the one on the left is the dog of Annette Gray in Sydney who likes to join her playing. Games create that structure, safety, engagement, which are key for change. And I think it comes a long way goes with that you're not so scared of failing in a game. You might lose, but you won't fail. So it's not as scary. And they boost engagement and alliance and peer support. So if we bring that play into therapy with an intention, we see how clients react. And this is what I keep seeing, how they show their vulnerability without actually feeling vulnerable, that they share very personal stuff. I had the luck of giving a training in Tenerife during a holiday last week to 46 Spanish people. And again, there, the feedback was that the conversations get personal really quickly, but it feels very safe and it feels very useful. So, yeah, I want to. give the client the microphone first. Tara Gretton has used the Mindsetter in Bath in her school in Beach and Cliff and several schools with a group of 11-year-old boys who were very proud to be the first kids in the UK. They didn't even know they were the first kids worldwide, apart from my own, who used it. And she interviewed him, and I'll skip a little bit of the introduction, but he's 11 years old. He's in the first year of secondary school, so in seventh grade. Wait. So let's see what Rafferty thinks.
So, Rafferty, first off, what would you say about the Mindsetter game?
Well, I'd say it's a very good game. If you're like feeling a bit down and you just like want to chill, you can play the game. And it's a multiplayer game, so you can play it with anyone you like. And the good thing about this game is that like it really asks questions about who you are and like how life makes you feel. And it's a really good way to express your feelings, in my opinion.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, so it's a really good way to support you to express your feelings. Yeah. So you do it in a group, and there's usually between 4 and 6 of you in the group, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what type of questions do you get asked and how does the game work? How would you describe the game?
So basically, you've got a dice. Again, it's a multiplayer game, so you can play with whoever you want. And then you've got a cup. You start on the starting position. You roll the dice, and there's a bunch of different squares. My favorite is the question mark because they're the easiest to answer, but also they're the most like they really question like what you're saying, and they really make you speak freely about yourself. And it's just it's really good. And you gotta try get all the way around the board to win. But even if you don't win, you still get to speak freely about who you are, how you feel, how life makes you feel. And it's just really good, especially when you're like playing it with like family or friends. Like in my group, I can like relate to people who I'm doing it with. We can just chat about that, and it just feels so nice, just like a little chill out, and it's just really good.
Yeah, thank you. That's such a wonderful description of the game, and thank you for sharing that. So the questions, can you think of any examples?
Yeah, I can. There's this one that sticks to me in my head. And it says like, we meet on the street in 5 years. What will you tell me about your life and how it's going? And I think that really makes you like think about what you want your life to be, and it's really good. And I think it really pushes you forward to be like a better person, and just to try really hard in whatever you do, because you want to try to speak like positively about what you've done in the future, and it's really good.
Oh, wow. I love that question too. It is a really good one, isn't it? And what difference does that make to the now when you play the game and you answer those types of questions? What difference does it make to even the day that you play the game?
Well, it definitely makes a difference because some of those questions, like, it doesn't have to be like in the future. It just has to be like small little things like in your day that make you feel better. And I think if you come out of the day with a positive mindset and you're just thinking about that, you really can think about it, and you really can like do those just little steps that make you happier in the day. And I think that's really good.
Oh, thank you, Rafferty. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your feelings. Is there anything else that you would want to say?
Okay, I'll switch. So what are the objectives of the coaching version? What you see is that there's 4 quadrants. It looks a lot like Ludo or a similar game or Monopoly, what the client, I do invite my clients first to think of their best hopes. I say it here, goal, but it of course it's a best hope. And I try to make it as concrete as possible because my clients many times begin with, I want to be happier, or I want to be healthy again, or I want to be whatever. So I try to make it occupation based, which would be OT, like what would I see you doing? What would your life look like if that happened? But if they don't get any further, then I will be happier. I'm happy to play it like that. So, and then there's the 4 quadrants, where in quadrant 1, the best hopes, they get all kinds of questions. In total, it's 96 questions. So it's a whole pile. And that's due to me not being very good at making decisions. And B, I wanted there to be a choice. So not just 20 questions which get very repetitive, but I wanted that choice. So there's 24 questions per quadrant. So the best hopes ones are all around, and you'll experience some of them around like what will it look like? What do they have to gain if they get closer to the best hopes? What will that look like? And whom will they celebrate it with? And what gives them the hope that that will work out? The second quadrant is the very typical, if something works, do more of it. So already finding out what's already good enough, or what's already working well in their life, and what do they want to keep just the way it is. Then, yeah, stolen from Peter Sabo, the term retune, like to find out more possibilities. So if something doesn't work, do something different. But then in the SF sense, so not finding problems, but saying, what else could you try? And what else? And what else? And what else? And the fourth, identifying helpers and resources. So to find out who helps, what helps, and you could also call that, maybe it's a bit SF old school. Ian, you might know it from your training too, back in the day, like of the problem-free talk. So it can also be, what kind of music do you like? What kind of memories do you have with that? And what I love about the game is that as a facilitator, you have all the freedom, like from every single question, a whole SF conversation could arise. So I can dive deeper with any question or every question, but I don't do that because then it gets too heavy. Like some questions I just let be. And I played either in a group or one-on-one. And if I played in a one-on-one session, and I mean, again, this is in all kind of contexts, as you'll see later. One-on-one with a client, I mostly play along and then use a more generic goal of having a better work-life balance, of doing more sports or eating more healthily, or something they can somehow relate to. So again, from research, so what's the power of analog games? Because I get so many questions on, can't you make that an online game? And why can't we turn it into an app? And so far I've resisted. I'm still looking into the options, what I'd like, but why is analog gaming still so nice? It requires no technology, so they can't be, it's cheaper maybe on the long run. They are versatile, inviting, encouraging, but also somehow it could be more inclusive because you can adapt them to the cultural background of your clients or the surrounding. They encourage, and I like that too, especially the bigger versions, which you see here, which people invite people to get up. There's a tabletop version, but there's also the versions being played on the floor. Relational, that they get into action, and research supports that card games or board games help to emotionally explore, to find out new ways to experiment. Engagement, and yeah, I told you I was on Tenerife, and I mean, they're being very Spanish, but this is the interaction I normally see too. This was in 5 minutes of playing. There was a lot of conversation going on. So the Mindsetter, which here you see the tabletop version, is very versatile. So in those 2 years it's been on the market so far, it's been used in SF training and mental health care, in team coaching or supervision, executive coaching, in recovery colleges, so more in the like mental health corner, more and more in prevention, which I like just in a normal school. SF with children and teenagers in education, so in training of healthcare workers, social workers, whatever. And there's actually only, it says rules here, but there's only one important rule, that cheating is permitted and even encouraged. This is what I tell them from the start, that they can do it, they can play it their way, which I had feedback in the Spanish group last week. They said, yeah, even if cheating in that sense only means if one question is too difficult or doesn't apply, you use another one. Or if you want to go quicker, you go quicker. If you want to go the other way, do that. Or you want to jump. But it gives you the freedom. And normally I always have someone in the group who gets a twinkle in their eyes, like, oh, I'm allowed to cheat. Or says, I never cheat. But it allows in SF training to explain co-creation, because what happens if played in groups, normally I play like in the training version, and this one I sometimes play in doubles or in small groups. I let them define their own rules. There's always a bit of a chaos in the beginning, and then there's one group who will draw a card and I'm the one answering, or the next group, they draw a card and they all answer, and the third group does something totally different. So it makes it easy to explain what SF is about. And yeah, I think the freedom is for the facilitator, but also for the participants. Yeah, benefits I've heard back so far, or I'm experimenting with, is literally holding space, especially with the big games, like to invite people into a safe space where they can experiment, to rediscover resources. And because I get the question a lot, like, do I link every question to the goal? No, I don't. But I think, for those who've been in the session just before on neurodiversity, I think as soon as we make them talk about resources, it will also be easier to find the hope to set steps. Setting the stage for new ideas, and then in peer support to have the rest of the group help them out. And what I find striking, even though my clients know it's my game, somehow my role changes. I'm not the one asking the question, it's the game asking the question. So they draw a card and it's the game. So many times I feel like clients answer questions much more easily and readily, while in a one-on-one session, I might have to do my best a little more. And what I also like, I mean, not here, obviously, because you're all SF trained, but out there, that it's no need for the facilitator to be SF trained. But I do think the game gets better if you are, because you can use it in a more SF and useful way. But if, for example, in schools or in a healthcare environment, if they use the game, it already gives you all the tools you need for an SF conversation, which, yeah, it's my secret weapon, or my undercover activities to become more, or make society more solution focused. And yeah, again, the game dynamics breathe SF, as cheating is a form of co-creation, but also looking at the goal, at resources, and the path towards the goal from different angles, from different perspectives. Stimulating collaboration to have peer support and trusting the process. And before we'll play, just a quick, there's two versions, but who wants to hear more about the training version, just reach out. I'm happy to have a chat on that separately. But so there's one version for teaching SF. There's one version for doing it in whatever, like doing SF. In 3 sizes. So in the tabletop, a small one and a huge version. It's so far, I counted yesterday, at the moment it's 176 games in 27 countries. So this all over the globe, I'm trying to say, but there's just still a few blank spots. So let's see. Moving into Poland, Lydia. So let's play. What we're gonna do for you to try out is the first set of questions, but I'll put them in the chat. I will put you into breakout rooms, And there's for now 4 different questions, one from every quadrant, which I would like you to choose one, like just to have a solution-focused conversation around them. And I'll give you 12 minutes in total, but I'll send that in more questions after a while. Just checking the chat quickly. No, I think it's fine. Okay, so 16 people. So I'll put you in threes. Is that all right? No, threes. Let's see. Yeah, threes or fours. Yes, and I'll get you back after a while. Wait. And I will put in a message to the chat, I will put you the questions. Do you want that, or you want to take a photo of the cards first? No? Okay, then I will put them in the chat. I'll do that first, but also send it in. I'll put both rounds, so if you don't, start the cheating. If you don't like the first set of questions, do the second. They're in the chat, but I will post them afterwards again. Yes? Okay, enjoy. Welcome back. How did it go? The mini therapies, the playful session, whatever. Camille, I'm curious.
Yeah, it was fun to, even though we didn't share our goals explicitly, just answering the question and seeing what's coming up was really, it resonated. Some of the answers of my colleagues resonated with me, and I really enjoyed the questions.
Yeah, and I think this is a great point I forgot to mention. I do the same. If someone doesn't want to share the goal, I'm very true to Steve DeShazer saying I don't need to know the goal. I can quite as well have a useful SF conversation without ever knowing what exactly are your best hopes, but what difference it will make. It's fine. And sometimes I have clients in the group who don't want to share any of the answers, but then fine. If they just think about it or write it down or whatever, I'm fine with it. Anyone else? How did it go?
Sorry, I would like to know some more about the other squares in the game, you know, the stars and stuff. I mean, otherwise it was those questions, I would just have wanted to sit with those questions without ever playing any games. They were so wonderful.
You're absolutely right. They go deep very quickly. I think it's a good, I will quickly do that and then come back to the question. You know what? I'll get back to the first. Actually, it's true that every quadrant has 4 question mark fields. So those are 18. There's 18 questions to choose from in each color. And then there's 6 special spaces, of which one is the bonus, and in that one, in the coaching or therapy version, it has always something to do with the body or movement. So there's in the yellow one, for example, it's the idea of find a space in the room or a place in the room which represents achieving your goal. How does it feel? What does it feel like to actually go there? Like to really move to that place in the room. And then there's the star is the sparkling moment. So in the tradition of Mark McCargo, and then it's different in every single quadrant. It's a bit different. So it's either a situation or with a person you like, whatever. So it's variations of that. Then the light bulb, the out of the box questions is my wild card. I will show you an option just after this one, so bear with me. Then the corner fields in the yellow and red are about the next small step. So it's questions around what will the next small step look like? What will others see you doing? Whatever. And in the green and red, for those who know the concept, I guess, all the reflecting team. So it's those cards are turn and talk, that the rest of the players turns and talks 2 minutes about what of your strength they've seen and experienced and what they're impressed about. And then the lightning bolt is challenges. And in this version of the game, it's different in the training version, but in this one, the treasure chests are a bit of lighter questions, which I tend to ask the whole group. So, for example, I have the blue choices here. What is your right balance between adventure and security? So not based in any research, but it helps them to just think about, like, what do you need? What security do you need? What adventure do you like? And this normally I ask to the whole group, so there's a whole discussion going on. And I actually do that a lot if I play it in therapy and I have a small group and I want to hear every single answer. If someone struggles, I might also say, "Oh yeah, do you also see if someone else recognizes that or struggles with a similar thing or whatever, what else they see." And I'd like to, because I love the out of the box questions. This is images or give me a color, Safina. Red, green, blue, or yellow? Yellow?
Me.
Green? Okay, well, actually, this color is this is the yellow one on the card, but they would draw a card. Could be any photo card or coaching card, or I have cards in my web shop, on my website for people to download. And then it would be a question around that. So the green out of the box, for example, is imagine we would have drawn this card, that this gentleman with his guitar. And then the question would be, which of your strengths or skills does this image represent? Mm. And what I like about it, the more random, the better. I make sure I don't use cards where there's just rainbows and butterflies and lions. But I prefer oh gosh, I have no idea kind of reply, because then hopefully that brings new ideas. I think could you mute? I think there's some disturbance. Do you hear me well? Yeah, okay. Or for example, the one I put on here would be the same image, and then what does this image show you about your hope or your hope, your best hope and the path towards it? And then it becomes very useful what other people say. And actually on the card, I call it my wild card because you could use anything. It doesn't say draw a photo card. It could be a quote. It could be a motto. It also says like choose an item in the room. It could be anything. I could ask you to whatever. Tell me what this pencil I'm holding tells you about your goal. So, I mean, I like the creativity in it. And then especially if played with a group, they come up with new ideas normally. Any other questions or feedback? I'll stop share for a second. How did it go in your groups?
I had a lovely experience of somebody answering the question. Answering the question and basically giving themselves therapy for about a minute and a half it was the cartoon character question of basically going, oh well, I would pick this character and I would ask them this question and this is what they would say as an answer.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, yeah, the problem is sorted.
Yeah, I had a client, and this is one of the brilliant practice-based evidence examples. I had a patient of mine, like with early onset psychosis, get that question, and she said she wanted to be one of the girls from Narnia, because she said they were in a crisis situation, but because they were, of course, it's the story takes place in the war. And then they get catapulted into that fairy tale country, but they manage. And again, they manage to cope and they manage to deal with it. And then they get back to reality and have to cope. And what she wanted to ask them is, yeah, how did you do that? Like, have you managed to cope with different realities? And this is something I love. And I actually, every time I have to laugh a bit on myself and my generation, because you can tell from the question that I don't watch too much TV. I could have included a person from a TV series or from Netflix, but it didn't occur to me at the time. But of course, some people do answer from a film, as usual. Okay. We only have 5 minutes left. Oh my God. So I will only quickly tell you the settings. Like if this start, no, it decides to not move. Wait a second, sorry. I'll restart it. The feedback so far, because it's used in education, and all those you saw the numbers before, 176 games, they're all around. There's high schools in the UK, in Australia, in the Netherlands, students of social work and OT in Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, UK, Canada, master students in South Wales, where it's more about inclusivity and finding their own goals. It's students from Nigeria who come to the UK to study. And I'll skip those. There's some on my website in organizations, and this is one of the photos I love. For those who know Annette Gray from Sydney, she went on a trip to Antarctica with women in STEM, and they took the game along and played in this wonderful background. So in organizations in again different countries and different areas of the world, which is impressive to me. In SF training in several countries in Germany, the Netherlands, Canada, and so forth. What of course holds my heart is mental health care. And I mean, on this photo, you see quite some people I've seen in the breakout rooms today, like Yoram Gali, Haysan Moon, whatever. This was in the Soul World Conference in Vienna 2 years ago, in therapy and coaching, in mental health care. And this is a feedback I got from a peer support worker. So someone with a group, he tested it, who uses it in prevention, but also said something I find a lovely description of SF, like rings and circles emerge. You move in spirals around your goal, observing it from different perspectives. And this is what people keep saying, like that it's a different, the flexible perspective taking, getting circular questions, getting new ideas in training. And this is one from a first-year student of OT who said, I have to admit, I haven't had such interesting conversations as during this game in a long time. I'm not sure if it says more about the game or his group of friends, but it's I liked it. There's an article in the Journal of Solution Focused Practice. Who fancies to read more, but you can just Google it. So there's an article from Scotland. And then again, going back to research, what evidence says about games, that with children and adolescents, it helps with emotional literacy, engagement in family and couples, conflict resolution, perspective taking. And what I found interesting in neurodiverse clients, like a structure and visual scaffolding, while I also have to admit that this, at least people on the autism spectrum sometimes struggle with my cheating is an option, and with the images. But even then, even if they take it very literally, it can also still be useful. Yes. So game, yeah, purposeful game. So any more questions before we wrap up? And I think I said so before. Drop me a line. I'm always happy to have more conversations. Patricia?
Yeah, I was wondering, what experiences do you have, or what do you think how it could be particularly useful for people diagnosed with ADHD? Background is because sometimes I have the feeling it's hard if if it's just the conversation and the cognitive approach, that for them it's sometimes very hard to focus on the question that's been answered. So I'm wondering whether this game could be more supportive here.
I think mostly the walking version could be useful. I haven't really experienced any problem with it. I think with the kids in the UK, what they sometimes do is bring in some movement elements. So not roll the dice, but kick the football. Like as our
Mhm.
they were able to lift the football into the air, they were allowed to go walk on or introduce like keep movement like the movement part. But I have a lot of double diagnosis, as bad as that word is in SF, clients, and I've never had a problem with it because it's dynamic enough.
Now, my question was more, is it even more helpful than the usual conversation setting?
I would say it is because of the game. I mean, what Rafferty is saying, to win, you have to go all the way around. There's no winning in this game. But for him, it feels like winning. Yeah, be my guest once again if you feel this is winning. There's always some group deciding if they were quickest, they won, or if they were most useful, they won, whatever. Yeah?
Gesa, Dr. Anil from India, Kerala. We got your game from Netherlands, and we are using it in clinical setting in children with ADHD and other behavior issues, externalizing behavior who are admitted in the ward, child psychiatry ward. It's a group therapy session. It is very useful, and also for training teachers and counselors. So the both ways in the group for the training and also for individual therapy session for the children with behavioral problems. It is useful.
Thank you so much. And I still have to get back to you on translating. Oh God.
Yeah, translating. Yeah. Yes. We need a local language version. It's very useful.
Yes.
Thank you for it.
And Lydia is laughing because she has a Polish version now. Any more questions before we wrap up? No? Thank you so much. Actually, there is one in Berlin, Kati and Safina, or actually several, but in OT schools and with the peer support worker lives in Berlin. So he takes it to, there's an anti-stigma festival in Brandenburg somewhere in the summer. He takes it to as well. Yeah.
Okay. Have you developed anyone for children, specific for children?
For younger kids, not yet. That's again one of my best hopes. I would love to do that. Yeah. So far, it's been used for 10 years and up, depending on the child. Yeah. Thank you, Kati.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Gesa.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.